Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, evening, I'm joined by the legendary Welsh rugby player, Mark Ring. How are you doing today, Mark? You okay?
I'm good, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And I introduced you as a legendary Welsh rugby player. And obviously, you're a bit retired now, but back in the day, especially when I was first starting out watching rugby, you was one of the guys I used to look up to playing for Cardiff. And
That's very kind of you.
yeah, and we shared a school as well in common as well. So we might as well get straight into the rugby side of things, I think, because that's one of my passions. So how did you find playing for Wales and all of that sort of thing? Because obviously a lot of people tried to get to that point and not succeed, but you managed to succeed. So how did you do it, and how did you find it when you did it?
Well, obviously, ambition. Having the shop window was obviously the Welsh team growing up, and watching some unbelievable players. My idol to watch would have been the '70s and the British Lions, and the likes of Barry John would have been my idol. Gerald Davis. They would have been the two sort of standout performers for me. But I think the rest of them, they were unbelievable players. Sir Gareth. They were fantastic to watch, and obviously very successful too. And there was a massive amount of pride in the entire country, rugby being the number one sport, and it was just huge. And the excitement remained with me, and I was fortunate enough to represent Cardiff schoolboys at a very young age, and stuck with it all the way through. I mean, I think in this day and age, lots of guys, talented players, they tend to fall by the wayside, unfortunately. But if you've got that sort of ambition and burning desire in you, then you're prepared to put the hours in. And I think people looked at me and saw the way I played the game, if you like, and didn't give me much credit for being very fit. But I was extremely fit, and the amount of hours I spent alone. Just me and a rugby ball in the late nights, honing the skills into the darkness. I mean, it was long, and the passion just remained with me.
Yeah, well, you're one of those players. I think you was seen as being sort of talented, gifted, and that. And obviously, like you say, you have to put those hours in to have that talent, But also, I think a lot of people, similar to, I know you got a picture on your LinkedIn of George Best, and a lot of people see, I remember you for a lot of the skills and the talent you had back in the day, because you used to do things a little bit different. You're a bit more, say, of a maverick than somebody who just maybe played the game by numbers, if you like, and obviously George Best was similar on a football field. I also used to think Jonathan Davis, Jiffy, was a bit like that as well. I remember you and Jiffy were the two players that stood out to me when I started watching Cardiff as a kid, if you like, and Wales, because you used to do things a little bit different, and I quite like that. More recently, I think we had James Hook, who was that sort of ilk as well. I quite like those. He probably suffered a bit in his career because he didn't like to play the game by numbers so much. But I think a lot of people do realise, even if you are gifted and talented, you still do have to work at it and put the time in too.
Very, very much so. Jiffy and I were the same age. There's just only a couple of days between us, birthday wise, and we played against each other. He was fly half for West Wales. I was fly half for East Wales. When we played at the Arms Park in a curtain raiser for Wales Tonga 1974. So that's how far we go back, and it was just an amazing day when I was lucky enough to get capped before Jiffy, but and it was absolute delight when he broke into the side in his own right. I was established as a centre three-quarter then, and Jiffy came in and played fly half, and we seemed to rub off each other, and played with a lot of happiness during the course of the game. Confidence. I had a lot of belief in him. I'm sure he had a lot of belief in me.
Yeah, good. And
I mean, confidence is huge at international level. I mean, I have to say.
Yeah.
I did play with players who, unfortunately for them, they did go through a bit of a confidence crisis, and You know, you're playing in front of 60, 70,000 people, and as you're about to pass the ball to somebody else, they're shouting in your ear, "Miss me out, miss me out." They didn't, you know, you could see they didn't even want the ball. You know what I mean? It's just sometimes when you do lose your confidence, it's a scary place to be too.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Jiffy went off to rugby league and go pro. Did you have? I guess you probably had some offers as well at that time.
Yes, I had an early offer from Wigan, which I turned down flat, and I later had another offer from Wigan, which I believe it or not, I did agree terms with Wigan, and I pulled out last minute. I just couldn't bear not to play for Wales, because obviously you're giving up your amateur status, and it was still a massive thrill for me to play for Wales. They were literally coming down the M4 to do the signing. We'd arranged to meet in a hotel off the M4 near Chepstow, and I rang up the night before, rang up the guy, a good friend of the family who was acting for me as my agent. Rang him up and said, "Yes, I got cold feet," and yeah, that was the end of it. And I think they signed Fano Botica then, which was a fantastic signing for them, and he had a fantastic career.
They were great at that time, weren't they?
Yeah.
In that era, they were awesome. That was when Sean Edwards played for them as well, wasn't it? That sort of era.
Yeah. It's amazing to look back, to say, well, you know, I had an opportunity to go there, and when I cried off, the great Fano Botica came in, and they sort of changed tack and signed him. He had an amazing career. I'd had a couple of knee injuries, and I was always a little bit doubtful whether I had the pace for the game.
Yeah.
I think if you made a sort of clean break, I wasn't worried about, you know, making breaks or trying to put other people into space. You know, I wasn't afraid of the tackling, element of the game and the physicality, and certainly my fitness levels were up there. But I always had something in the back of my mind, you know, if I broke from my own 22, whatever, and no support, I've got to go. You know what I mean? I know it's it's no big deal really if you're tackled and don't lose possession. You know, they want to keep possession of the ball in that game, but I was always a little bit, you know, mindful that that I can be found out for sort of lack of pace certainly after a couple of serious knee injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I belong to a business network, I do, and we had Jiffy on talking recently, and I asked him a question about his time, you know, going to league and I asked him, you know, does he think that Wales would have been a lot more successful in the 80s had it not been for the exodus of all the players going to league? And I suppose that leads nicely on to you, really. How did it affect, you know, the Wales team and those that stayed at the time, with a few of the sort of star players, you know, drifting up to league to play pro?
Yeah, massively. I mean, you know, we finished third. We won the Triple Crown, and we finished runner-up for the Grand Slam. We lost at home against France by a point. We went out to New Zealand the following year, and we took an absolute hammering in both tests. It just proved that we were so far behind the likes of the All Blacks, who certainly led the way and won the World Cup in '87. And beat us also by the similar margin to the two tests in '88. They beat us a similar margin in the semi-final of the World Cup as well. But we finished third. You know, we beat Australia, then we finished third in the world. You know, so, you know, if we'd have kept the players, I feel we could have potentially gone to much bigger and better things, because you do learn from better players and better teams. I think we'd have been, you know, we had enough talent in the team, you know, to be quick learners. I think Jiffy was very outspoken. Really, you know, I think he had a lot to say, you know, to the management about where we should go. So I think he was a bit disappointed that his potential input was sort of frowned upon. Yeah. It was still a little bit of sort of old school, you know, behind the scenes, you know, in terms of the whole setup, you know, away from the players. I think the players are far more involved today, for example. And encouraged to be vocal, you know, in some of the way they feel about the game being played, because, you know, the players can learn just as quickly as the management. There's no question about that. And I've always felt that, that, I mean, for example, the one player I played against, a guy called Warwick Taylor, was, he had that sort of priceless ability to sort of hold on to the ball for a split second longer and delay his pass and delay his decisions and boss people around him, different people running into different holes and angles. And, I changed my entire game because of playing against Warwick Taylor, and tried to focus on my game on the way he played. So, I felt I improved, for that experience. And that would be just one very small example, really, of the potential of everybody else improving for playing against better players.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously, it's good to have leaders on the pitch, isn't it? And I think the successful teams tend to have leaders all over the place. I think that's we've been back in our heyday again. The last sort of since 2005, really. So last 15 years, we've been up there, giving it our all. And obviously, I think I agree. Back in the 80s, I think we had a dominant period in the 70s, and I think we would have dominated again in the 80s. Had it not been, because I think we was third in the World Cup. When you played in 2 World Cups, and you were third in one of them, weren't you, in one of the World Cups?
Yeah, that was the one I just mentioned. Yeah, the third and fourth place playoff against Australia.
Yeah.
We won that game. So yeah.
I think Wales would have gone on and had maybe a dominant sort of decade, decent decade.
I think it was about the time. It was about the time when New Zealand. It always seems to be New Zealand. They always seem to lead the way. But I still think at the time when we toured in '88, the biggest thing was we were, we would still be a little bit sort of old-fashioned in passing the ball wide, and the entire pack of forwards would run sort of as fast as they could collectively, as far as they could over the other side of the field. When New Zealand were only playing in sort of like almost playing in pod systems back then, only committing their back rows across across the field, and then having sort of we were probably running too far, in support of the ball carrier, when other teams like New Zealand were more organised. And that would have taken nothing.
They were playing a bit more direct, as Gatlin says, earning the right to go wide.
Yeah, and we were, they were rolling. They're big, heavy ball carriers rolling into our midfield. The likes of Jiffy and myself, just we were dusting ourselves down, getting up the bottom of a ruck, and then looking up, and then someone like Terry Wright or Gallagher just cantering in, down the left-hand channel. So we were overcommitting to rucks and mauls, at international level, and New Zealand weren't. They were just so far organised, than we were, and leading away once again. I mean that game now, is very, very old-fashioned, but you have to remember that game was leading away in the world, and they were the world champions.
Yeah, definitely. And what's your favourite rugby memory from playing professional? What would you say was the highlight of your career?
Oh, well, the highlight, I think, was my first cap, because it's just the culmination of a boyhood dream, isn't it? So, but
what about playing memory? Memory.
Well, my first cap was a bit of a downer, because the game didn't go particularly well for us. I was selected. Robert Ackerman had pulled out. I was a sort of late replacement for Robert Ackerman, so I played. It was a tough draw against England at home. It was hugely disappointing. I mean, I only touched the ball 4 times. They scored a try, and I was potentially responsible for allowing the width on the outside of us. I was dropped, and then sort of came back in the following autumn, then against Australia.
On that a bit before you go into that, a lot of players don't recover from that. So you had a bad experience. You build it all up. It's like you say, most boyhood dreams, if you like, to play for Wales. People, you run around in a playground or in a field and wishing, I could play for Wales one day. You turn up. You have a go. It doesn't quite go to plan. You may be responsible for a try. You only touch the ball 4 times. It's not the result you want at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you pick yourself up then and go on to the next game?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I wasn't selected in the first place, so it wasn't as if I sort of you know, been heir apparent and everybody's talking about me getting in the team, you know, and then failing, you know, and thinking to myself, oh my God, you know, is this what international rugby is all about? It's too quick for me. I'm going to struggle with it, and have all those negative thoughts. I mean, I was 20 years of age, you know. I'd only played 12, you know, first class games. I was literally just out of youth, and I had that opportunity, and then, you know, it was probably the right thing to do to bring Rob Ackerman with his experience back into the team. You know, he'd recovered from his injury. He was selected in the first place. I didn't impact on the game, so it was just a case of you know, keep working hard. I mean, the following year I think it was 85 season. I was Player of the Year. I was Welsh Player of the Year, Cardiff Player of the Year. You know, so things were a lot better for me.
That would have been when I was down watching. That was when I was down watching. That's when I said I used to look up to you and Jiffy. You know, I used to watch Cardiff when I was sort of like 5, 6, 7, 8. I was born in 77, so that would have been 84, 85, 86, that sort of time.
Yeah, 84, 85 season. I got a picture, and I'm receiving the Rugby Writers Player of the Year, and Ian Evans is receiving the Young Player of the Year in the same season. So yeah, you know, he obviously came along.
He's going for WRU chairman, I think I seen on the news today.
Earlier. Yeah, I read that. Nigel Davis as well, by all accounts.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they ousted Gareth Davis. Would you?
Yeah, well, I've met him a couple of times. He's done some speaking at, like I said, I'm part of a network, Intrabiz. They have a lot of entrepreneur and, you know, sort of Welsh, you know, speakers from different businesses and that. They've had Jiffy and Shane Williams and various different people at their business expos and their events. And yeah, he seems to be doing a decent enough job, I'd say. You know, he seems to be innovating quite a bit. You know, which I always find, you know, boards of rugby can get a bit set in their ways, and they don't always like to too much change. But he seems to be
maybe they're looking for someone from a different era. You know, Gareth. You know, but I mean, Gareth's a man with business acumen, isn't he? He's been, you know, he's been on chairman of a lot of high-profile businesses as well. You know, Oxford University background, so highly intelligent guy. I mean, I would have thought that I'd be surprised if Gareth didn't, you know, remain in that position.
Yeah. Obviously, you went into coaching after playing as well. You ever think about joining the union, or do you ever got involved in that?
No, I mean, you know, I'm about to be controversial now. I'm extremely disappointed with the way I've been treated from a coaching perspective. I'm not really, you know, I just feel that there's a lot of people in powerful places that tend to get a position in the union or in one of the regions or whatever, and they sort of tend to surround themselves by sort of nodding donkeys, if you like, and they all sort of group together and look after and watch each other's backs. You know what I mean? I mean, I've never been sort of quiet.
Because it won't matter if I say it, you know. But
no,
I tend to
I'm not afraid to speak out, and it's probably got me in much trouble, you know, over the years.
I think that's probably the problem. You know, a lot of these big organisations, they're like yes men, and they're like people who are just going to do what they're told, and they're just going to toe the line. And I think probably my guess is, by the way you played rugby, is you probably like to do things your way. You know, I'm a bit like that myself. I'm a maverick, you know.
Well, I've got a fair bit of knowledge, you know, and for them not to tap into that, I mean, like people, you know, put it this way: if I mean, I would, if I was head coach in a strong position, I wouldn't worry about being challenged, you know, by anybody else. You know, I'd welcome that. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way it should be. You know, I think we should all be striving to get together. We should all be sharing ideas. You know, I think that's the way forward. But I think there's a lot of jealousy. I think there's a lot of people just thinking to themselves, well, you know, I'm in this position, you know, and I've got a family to feed and all the rest of it, and I'm going to stay in this position for as long as I possibly can and make a living out of it. And yet, you know, what are they contributing? You know, I think there's such a lack. I think it's a huge worry. I think Michael Owen's come out recently and said something about you've been quite vocal and quite critical of particularly the Premiership. You know, and I mean, I said the same thing last year and got slaughtered for it. You know what I mean? I think the standard of the Premiership is just diabolical. I think the standard of coaching generally is not great. You know, we have got some decent coaches. You know, there's at the higher levels, and some good youngsters coming through. And you'd like to think that some ex-players will be nurtured and brought through the coaching process and find their feet. But you watch the game and you're wondering what's different. You know, it's just we just seem to be copycat.
Isn't it? There's a massive drop down from regional to the Premiership. So there is definitely a lack of something going on there. I think
there's a lot of parents involved at the very young ages. And the parents have got literally a lot of the parents haven't got much in the way of rugby experience at all, and they volunteer. Now, there's a massive drop-off of volunteers in the local clubs, as seasons move on. But the parents, they're sort of growing into the coaching game, and they're basically watching the product that they see week in, week out at international level and club level, which is just a complete sort of trucker pod system, ball tucked under one arm, drop off to a pod of three. I mean, I got a 15-year-old lad who plays fly-half for Cardiff schoolboys, under 15s, and when I first started coaching him at a very young age, he's looking in the backfield and he's looking over his shoulder to his open side, to his inside. He's counting numbers. He's looking back at he can kick with both feet. He's looking at the space in behind. He's looking to stop, go back in a different direction. But then he comes through to the higher he gets up the ladder and through the coaching process, they're all dropping pods of 3 forwards on his outside shoulder, and they basically turn him into a pivot. He just catches the ball and pops it off to a group of forwards, and they hit up, truck it up, and he runs the same way. And I said to him, why don't you, if you've not sort of made any sort of progress or carried the ball across the advantage line through this phase system, why don't you go back and explore a different avenue, go back to the short side? I'm not allowed, he says that. I'm not allowed to.
I think they're overcoached, and especially the people they're overcoached, and they play by numbers rather than play by what's in front of them or what you can do. I asked Jiffy the other day, why has the grubber kick gone out of the game? Because he used to be amazing at putting the grubber kick in, and you get these blitz defence running at you. Quickly and stopping everything that you do, and all you've got to do is put a grubber kick, make them having to turn on their heels and run, and all of a sudden you're rushing so quick to try and defend against you because
he scored that try against Scotland, and he used the grubber kick, and basically he's running. It's a poor scrum, and Robert Jones has done great to sort of find some sort of reverse pass, which is sort of ballooned up in the air, and then Jiffy stepped back inside. He didn't know where he's going at that point. He accelerates forward. They come in to make a hit on him, and he drops it on his right foot and just pops the ball through a little hole. Grab a kick, as you say, and scores a try from nothing. I played against Scotland in, I think it was 88 or 85. I think 85 at Murrayfield. I made this. I've gone for an outside break. I'm not going to get there. They closed me down. I just popped a little grubber kick through it, stood up lovely. We scored. I mean, we didn't. The try was disallowed for an off the ball sort of crossing or something. But it was something it's not on, and yet you've got a little skill in your back pocket to when it isn't on, to sort of keep the momentum going forward. And the worst thing that's going to happen is they take you down, they take you late, and you've got the penalty. So you're right. Where is the grubber kick gone in an attacking sense? I mean,
because the way I look at it, they kick the ball away a lot, right? They play this possession game now, where they like to play out of possession. Like I was always taught, it's better for you to have the ball in your hands and to wear them down than the other one. So don't quite get that.
The spiral kick, I would have thought, will come back in now. The spiral kick, because they've now got this 50-20. Whereby from a 50-meter line or whatever, the halfway line, if you can drop a ball into the opposition 22 and bounce it into touch, you get the attacking line out in their 22. I think it was designed now to stop the open side wing being stood in the line and give more width wide to play a passing game. But I can see people overcoming that by maybe dropping the scrum half off the line out back to the short side, dragging the blindside winger across central, pulling the full back across, and leaving the winger in the line anyway. So that'll probably be scuppered, that little thing. But if there is some space there, the end over end kick is not necessarily going to get you there because who knows which way it's going to bounce. So the spiral kick, if it's done properly, should land on the bottom axis and then turn into a grubber kick and then roll into touch from there, or even roll further. I always remember Australia beating Wales on the Arms Park when Rhys Priestland decided to kick the ball on the last play. He's chosen end over end kick, right foot to left.
5 minutes to go, and he should have just played through the phases and just but they kicked it back, and we lost in the last minute.
Whatever he should have done, he decided he was going to kick the ball, right? So, but he's chosen a right foot kick to the left touchline, end over end, right? Yeah. The ball has gone over the winger's head. In fairness, he struck it well enough, but then it bounced in the opposite direction. So the winger now is running at us. Yeah. He's gone off, got an offload in. A couple of passes later, they've scored. We've lost the match. Now,
that was the autumn test. That was about 4 years ago before we started Australia.
Yeah, but this is a classic. It's another classic sort of. Coaches have come in. Taken away. A skill. Nobody's even given any of the players any sort of insight into how the execution of the grubber kick and given the logic behind why they use it, where they use it, etc., etc. It's just disappeared from the game completely. Which is a classic case. I think the rugby league coaches have come in and influenced the game since professionalism. The end of end.
I think Sean Edwards had a massive. Sean Edwards had a massive influence on Union on the way coach defensive line set up and
stuff. Everyone makes a big fuss out of this defence. My grandmother can coach defence. She's been dead 25 years. Yeah. Let's be honest about it. There's such a dearth of coaches at the moment, attack coaches. The attack coaches can't outthink the defence. That's all they're doing is running away from the rucks and mauls. You know what I mean? A little bit of innovation, a little bit of thought process, and all you got to do is tie in some. Put it this way: you've got literally four players in the backfield. Without in the team that doesn't carry the ball has generally got four players in the backfield waiting for the kick. Yeah. So that means you've got 15 players, right? The attacking team's got 15 players in attack against 11, right? So the fact is they're all running away from the rucks means they just spread out and spread out and spread out.
Yeah,
so I don't know why. I mean, like, why don't they someone come back in and set up a mini rolling maul? You said about mini rolling maul. I mean, the old rolling maul used to from a line out. I mean, someone might come back now and tell me, "Oh, that's illegal," but I'm not sure if it is. You know what I mean? There's got to be some sort of thought process where you can pick up a ball up from a static ruck, lift it up, turn it into a maul, and start making some progress on the middle of the park with your forwards. That'll tie in 4 or 5 forwards, and then suddenly, right, you're 4 in the backfield, minus 4 forwards. You're playing, massive numbers and lots of space.
Yeah. I mean, who's your video off, Mark? You turned your video off. Don't know you done that purposely, but
no, it's a phone call. It was a phone call came through, but yeah.
I remember as well. Back in the day, you used to be quite good at doing the scissors and stuff as well. You don't really see that many intricate back moves like you used to see.
Again, I mean, I don't want to just come across as a killjoy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the scissors. I can't remember the last time I saw a dummy scissors. As a flyer running across 2 centres. But if you hide the ball and slow down and then accelerate, it makes it stands people still in the middle of the park. I mean, but what you see guys running across, if they do show dummy scissors, they never ever hide the ball. So the opposition defence can see exactly what you're doing, and you open yourself up for a big smack in the rib cage. Yeah. So again, where's the simple coaching process? To the younger kids, to the younger generations, where's it all gone? I mean, why are we bringing guys through who have not had any sort of decent core skills coaching, you know, and they're still making a great international football.
It goes down to they like to employ people in safe positions, and so the people who are a little bit more outspoken, a bit more maverick, don't get in the positions, and so those safety first coaches and managers, you know, the safety first managers employ safety first coaches, the safety first coaches employ safety first players, and then you get a load of yes men, you know, playing game by numbers rather than actually, you know, the people with all the skills, you know, playing the game the way it should be, which is, you know, responsive to what's actually in front of you and how the game's going, rather than just how you're told to do it in you know, the 3 weeks building up to the game. You know, the 3 weeks building up to the game is to give you an idea of strategy, but you should also be able to implement your own way of doing things in the game, depending on weather conditions and the opposition and the way the game's going and all these other variables that come into it, like, no?
Agreed.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why. I think it just everything goes down the safe route. I finished a rugby career at 15, 16 and went into sales. And I've always gone into those maverick sales jobs where they pay you decent commissions and stuff. Because you try and get a job in a corporate, safe environment, they don't want the maverick. They don't want, because you're not going to toe the line and do things the way they want you to do it. You're going to do it your way. And it's like, even if your way's better than their way, they still would rather have someone not as good doing it their way, like, you know?
Yeah, well, I wasn't the best salesman, I must admit.
Yeah, you had was it a media or speaking company or something for a while, didn't you?
No, I've always had my own sort of business, Mr. Celt,
yes,
which is Mark Ring's corporate entertainment and leisure team, and it just covers a lot of things, you know. Yeah. Most of it is in coaching. At one time, I was doing a lot of after school club coaching in the Rhondda, and I used to provide coaches for all different aspects of whatever they wanted after school clubs. Really, I mean, if they wanted a hockey coach or a netball coach or a trampolining coach, you know, I go and source the coach.
Do you ever do much speaking?
Yeah, I have done. I don't chase it. I don't chase the work. You know, I've enjoyed a couple of. I enjoy doing it with others. You know, as a group of them.
When you got like a comp and you've got a couple of people on the stage,
you know, Nigel Meek has been, and Rupert Moon. We've had a couple of ex sort of players, Jiffy and myself, and Adrian Hadley, Glenn Webb, Robert Jones. You know, we had Richard Webster. I think there's been a few of us, you know, together, you know, and doing Q&As. You know what I mean? And
usually like on a pre-Six Nations event and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we did one in Swansea with the 87 World Cup, third and fourth place playoff.
Yeah.
So there's a few stories. Yeah.
Like on an anniversary, was it like a 20th anniversary or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I went up the Rhondda for a Barbarians anniversary, a 40-year one recently, a couple of years back. That was really good. You know, up in was it Ferndale or somewhere up in the Rhondda somewhere, like, you know.
Yeah.
That was a good event.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it. I prefer to do like a Q&A because it's a lot more interaction from the audience then.
Yeah.
You know, one question we turn into like a 10-minute story, so we have a lot of fun with it.
I always like those nights.
I've never had an agent. I've never had an agent. I've never had an agent for after dinner speak, and I've never had an agent as a rugby coach. You know, so it's probably not very wise that.
You probably would have been better off having an agent. In fact, it's better off probably having a few agents because all they're doing is booking you. So you just want to be out there being found, isn't it? Like, you know, the more people you've got out there speaking to rugby clubs and corporates and whatever, the more you're going to get heard and whatever. The guy who's the one who mastered the speaking is Gareth Edwards, like, you know. Speaks everywhere.
The other one, Phil Steele. Phil Steele's a good one. I never tired of watching Phil Steele.
Yeah.
And he's a good compere as well. He's another one we've been involved in. And the other, I've done a few bits with David Giles is a great friend of mine. David Giles, the ex-footballer.
Yeah.
And he tells a few stories. And I've done a couple of rugby stroke football after dinner with Dave Giles. He's a good friend of mine. Lives on the corner, and we get on great as well. So
I tell you who's funny is Andy Powell, but and nearly all the afternooners speaking like over the last few years, they always feature Andy Powell in his
Yeah, I saw him recently. Yeah.
Always
Yeah, it was a sad old day when Matthew fundraiser for Matthew J Watkins, and then he suddenly passed away. But, very, very sad day. But
yeah.
Andy Powell was speaking then.
But yeah, and I know moving on from the rugby, I could talk rugby all day, but we would. I'm conscious we got to end it at. I got another call at 6. But what are you doing now, Mark? And what are what are you involved in at the moment?
Yeah, a friend of mine, Chris James, who's played. He's more recently been team manager of Swansea Rugby, but prior to that, he played in the back row for Swansea. He played for Newbridge as well, and he had a spell in Australia. He might even play with Cross Keys, Edward Vale. Anyway, we got Pally because his lad and my lad were coming through the Cardiff schoolboys trials. I was coaching St Peter's at the time. He was coaching the mini juniors at St Peter's as well. So we just hit it off, and then he offered me a chance to do a bit of work with him. He's got a company called iOS Care, and he's basically it's my role. They're all different roles, obviously, within care. But my role would be more like befriending and friendship with people with dementia or autism.
Yeah.
And by befriending them and taking them out and trying to find out what they like doing, and spending time with them gives respite then to maybe a parent or a husband or whatever, or a wife, and just 4, 5, 6 hours at a time, and they're with me. We throw them out. We've tried a bit of fun together.
That must be quite rewarding. That make you feel good.
I love it. Yeah, not everybody can do it, but I love it, and it sort of runs hand in hand with coaching. Really, I mean, I've never been one of them rugby coaches who put myself first. My biggest kick out of coaching is for the players, for the team. There's lots of coaches now who it's all about them and their social climb. But hand in hand with this job, it's all about that person. You put that person before you, and you provide you provide the support. To keep that person happy, cheerful, and even a learning process. I mean, I was with one lad recently, and we hopped at the driving range, and he was fantastic. I had literally no experience with a static ball at the driving range, and loved it. So
it's really good. My nan had Alzheimer's, and she used to love because they like going back, don't they? They remember the past better than they do the present, And they go back to the old songs, and I bet you have lots of old rugby stories and all of that. I love that.
Yeah, the one lad with Alzheimer's, couldn't get really a lot out of him, and then suddenly Dame Vera Lynn passes by, and then we start singing a few old Dame Vera Lynn songs, and next the White Cliffs of Dover, he haven't dropped a note. It's absolutely brilliant. I was like, and then I find out then he used to be in the choir back in the day.
Yeah.
So so you do find out about people, and try and bring out some memories in that sense. Anyway,
music works all the time. All you got to do is put the music on. Right. They're in there. Right. They love it. Yeah. That's a good pastime. Or what are you? What you employed? Or you volunteering? Or just?
No, I'm employed. Yeah, I'm employed.
Oh, there we are. Yeah. So it's a great job. It's a great fulfilling job. So well done for that. Well done for giving back to the community and getting involved and stuff. You given up on coaching and all that now, or you still do a bit? Or?
Well, I had, but I've just recently going to give a commitment to Old Iltilians to do a season with them.
Or coaching the kids or the adults?
No, the seniors. I mean, Ryan Harford is an up and coming young coach. Cardiff lad. He's been coaching Old Iltilians. John Manders is
So I used to
the
play
guy.
for when I was a kid, the old Ilts.
Yeah, right, okay.
The rack,
Well,
yeah.
John Mendes, you mentioned Ian Evans, and I think I might mention Nigel Davis. There was another job they went for in a Welsh Rugby Union recently, and John Mendes, so they got the post, if you like,
Yeah.
which was I think it didn't surprise me, but I think lots of people were a bit shocked. Who's John Mendes? But John Mendes is a former Cardiff schoolboy and Cardiff rugby player, not for very long, forged a career in the police force. I think he's retired now, but he's always been in and around Old Iltilians all his life.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows the grassroots, it's him. So he got that appointment, and one of the first things I said to John is, look, I don't mind committing, but I might be chasing players on a Saturday morning or a Friday night. He said, no. He said, I do all that. And I've gone to met him a few times, and the effort he puts in is just incredible. And he's right. We're having our first session now on Thursday, and he takes the pressure off the coaches completely, and we can just turn up and coach, and players turn up and play and train.
Yeah, because it can be a hassle, can't it, arranging for players and all of that sort of stuff. But if all you got to do is turn up and give the knowledge that you have, share the knowledge with the players, then that's it. It's nice and easy for you. You can, do the bit you love and not have to do the admin bit, if you like, the chasing around and all that.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I've been watching my lad play now the last couple of football and rugby. So I spent the last couple of years watching him come through from the kids, playing rugby fly half for Cardiff schoolboys. He's been playing left back for the Cardiff schools football as well, under 15s.
Yeah.
So he's done
well.
Wales,
then, are you?
Well, I think he's got to make a decision soon whether he wants to be a footballer or a rugby player. I can't really see rugby starting much beyond January, to be honest. So he might go down the football route.
Yeah, is he on the books at Cardiff City or something? Is he?
Oh, he's very talented. He's just joined this academy now up in Taftswell, which looks well run.
Okay.
They got Lee Kendall in charge there now, and he seems to have everything really well organised, and it's quite a professional environment. So we'll see where we go with it. But he's certainly talented enough,
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned St. Peter's earlier. I used to play baseball for St. Peter's when I was about 15, I think, 14, or maybe a bit younger, maybe 12. And you was my coach. So
yeah. I mean, I was St. Albans is my team really, and I played like Cardiff schoolboys St. Albans school, and didn't really get involved then because Lady Mary played cricket. They didn't play baseball in Lady Mary.
Yeah.
Obviously, you went to Corpus Christi. You said that that's obviously.
But we actually did play baseball in the school then, and we didn't play cricket. I never played.
It turned round, didn't it? Changed after I left.
I only got into cricket in something like 2005 or whenever we won the Ashes and Freddie Flintoff was involved.
Well, I know Matthew Lloyd. Matthew Lloyd's a good friend of mine. He coached me at St. Peter's, and he's been involved with the PE department now in Corpus Christi for a while. And I know he's a decent player for Penny Lamb. And I think he was sort of hot on the baseball for Corpus Christi, but Lady Mary didn't play. So I had that sort of 4-year spell really from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 playing baseball, and then nothing, just cricket then. And then when I left school, I went to St. Peter's Youth baseball, and that's where we got into it. Played for the youth and the seniors, then joined Old Iltilians. That's the St. Peter's thing was when our paths crossed.
That was on the old Rugby field at the top of the leisure centre on the top.
Yeah, but I really learnt the game. I was lucky enough I got capped playing for Old Iltilians. But I really learnt the game and some of the more, the deeper, darker arts of the game, if you like, as well. When I played John Grange Albion, so I finished my time at Grange Albion, and I met some great old stalwarts, and used to love talking about the game in the bars with those guys. And Mark Jones, I think he might be.
Is there much going on in baseball these days?
It's finished. Yeah, very, very sad.
I was going to say, because I haven't seen.
I think there's women are playing, I think.
Huh?
I thought the women were still playing, but the men's game's gone.
Oh, is it? Yeah, because
Yeah,
you never see it in the summer. I haven't seen it for a long time. People playing baseball.
no. Yeah, a couple of years ago there was 4 or 5 teams still batting about, but this is
The
just
kids
died
these
away.
days, they got too much. They've got too much competition with the gaming and stuff, haven't they? You know, so some of the sports suffer.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, you just need volunteers. I mean, the rugby clubs, they're in the same boat now. There's no volunteers.
No.
Volunteers are dropping off. Everyone just it's taking these guys for granted for so many years, and you need, in an amateur environment, you you need who's the water bottles man? Who's putting the pads out on the pitch, the goalposts? Who's putting the corner flags out? Who's greeting the referee and giving the team sheets? And it's they're not about the training nights and game day. They're not about.
I think those old school characters that used to be around to make everything happen. They've all sort of passed on, if you like, and there hasn't been a next generation.
Sorry, I lost you there, Mike.
Huh?
I lost you there, Mike.
Oh, I was just saying, those old school characters that used to sort of do all of that. A lot of them are passed on, and there hasn't been anyone come up underneath them,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh well, fair enough. Well, I'm conscious that I'm coming up towards the 6 o'clock, and I'm on another event then. So I'm going to wrap this one up. But it's been great speaking to you, Mark, and talking about rugby and life in general and whatever. So yeah, great to catch up with you, and keep up the good work with the caring. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, pleasure, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. All the best. Have a good evening.
And you. Bye.
Bye.